Hello and welcome to EPGN's Daily Noonerino with yours truly, Robert J. Morris. And normally with the Truth Hurts podcast, I say from the edge of the apocalypse, and I I still don't not disagree with that. Anyway, we got a lot to unpack today. I want to first take a moment to say thank you to all the new subscribers, as well as to all the people who have shared and have also provided me with some very important feedback, as well as clips and links to other events and things taking place. Um, there's absolutely no shortage of on the ground boots, as we call them, doing citizen journalism and just kind of taking a snapshot of where we are in our own future history right now, I guess you could say. Um, yeah, wow. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with an anonymous post that was sent to me, written by Anonymous. And this is in regards to the conundrum that is befalling Trudeau and the federal government here in Canada. And it basically states this. It says, let me tell you a bit how this is going to end. By way of background, I'm a mathematician with a specialization in applied mathematics of social interactions such as game theory. I'm what you would probably describe as a glowy adjacent. I hope I've got the lingo correct. The problem Trudeau has is that he has few, narrowly circumscribed bases of power that are enough to get elected, but not enough to govern against the will of the people. Those are very different things. So, that leaves him with very serious limits on what he can accomplish in this situation. The truckers are smart. They did not all converge on Ottawa, but rather organized themselves locally and created many small spots of trouble. In quantitative studies of insurgency, this is the ink spot model. Local, decentralized warfare that relies on local support, using the term warfare in a more of a kind of a metaphorical sense, obviously. Quite simply put, this is for the truckers to lose. If they can outlast the government, which may mean as little as another week, they will break it. Trudeau needs to win every interaction to stay in power. All the truckers have to do is not lose. A draw is always in their favor, and the situation in most places right now is a draw at best. The Mounties huff and puff, but have not been able to deal with or disperse a single protest. That's not unsurprising. By the way, truckers use a method originally devised for naval warfare called block shipping, sinking ships to block a strategic narrows or harbor entrance. There is literally no economical way of dealing with this tactic. Truckers know this. Their worst case scenario is losing their jobs and their trucks by just walking away. Still, it imposes a massive cost on the government. When the worst case scenario is that both you and your opponent lose, you have everything to gain. There is no dominant strategy here for Trudeau. There's no clear way to victory anymore for him. It's all about how badly he loses now. And just in look, I'm no expert. Uh, I'm no genius. I'm no oracle or nothing of the sort. I just, I live by what I see, and you know, I make and pay for my mistakes just like everybody else. And just what I can observe through all of this is that people have to make the conscious decision to be on the right side of history on this. Now, it's easy to buy into all of the platitudes and things that people say, like trust the science or we're all in this together. But those platitudes are empty unless they carry with them substance. And if the science doesn't carry data that is like, it can't be ambiguous. Like, it has to be very, very specific and very, very precise. And if the data does not carry with it any reason to to formulate a basis upon, then it's not science. It's literally platitudes. And this is the tactic now that our prime minister has basically, um, he's falling back on this because it's all he's got. He's hoping that the constant tactic of repetitively saying things is going to work in his favor. The truth is that the convoy is not a fringe group. The convoy represents the entire supply chain backbone of this country. And guess what? Every country in the first, second, and third world depend on one thing for its people, and that is the movement of goods. Period. There's almost nothing that anybody listening to this podcast right now has that didn't come off of a store shelf somewhere and that wasn't brought in by supply chain. So if anyone's thinking that this is just something that can be laughed off at as a fringe group trying to cause trouble, you're quite mistaken, and you're going to be in for a rude awakening, because one thing is for certain, that right now, as we speak, all of the items on those store shelves are drying up. This is going to make the government very desperate. They are going to lash out. They are going to do whatever is in their bag of tricks, I guess you could say, in order to achieve the result that they want. They want this to end so that they can continue moving along the path of destruction to remove your human rights, so that they can basically be a tyrant over you. Now, look, it's not even just for me to sit here and say things. It's not for me to do. Lots of other people, though, have spoken out. People with more than their fair share of knowledge in the area. People like Brian Peckford has actually come out on the Jordan Peterson podcast because he didn't trust the mainstream media. If you don't know who Brian Peckford is, he's the last remaining member of the First Ministers in 1981 to write the Bill and Charter of Rights and Freedoms in Canada. And that was further ratified in the 1982 Constitution Act, which is the very document that the federal government right now is trying to pretend doesn't exist. They've circumvented all of the practical avenues for the application of emergency measures to enact their own. And this is a sick overreach of their authority, and absolutely tyrannical. It is all of the things that the founding fathers of the United States were trying to prevent against in their culture. And, you know, we didn't have that. And yet, this is why we need it. Anyway, enough of me rambling on. I've got quite a little assortment of goodies to unpack upon y'all. And like I said, I want to say thank you to everybody who's tuned in and been checking out the channel. You'll find, if you're new, if you're new to the channel, I do a lot of different stuff. I do a lot of crazy and comical stuff. Well, sometimes it's comical if it works, and I also do this. So yes, I do have some of me seated in reality. Anyhow, I do want to. I figured, after what I just finished saying, I think Ben Shapiro pretty much summarized it best. There's about 4, almost 5 minutes worth of play here. With that, let me just make sure that we've got audio for that. And it looks like we're good. So I'll just play this back.
This is in the Wall Street Journal today. The message of Canada's trucker protests. Here's the line. The lesson for the COVID-19 police is that when you've lost even Canadians, arguably the most law-abiding people on the planet, you've lost the political plot. Let's start there, Ben.
No, that's absolutely true. I mean, the fact is that these oracles at Delphi have decided what we are all supposed to do for 2 years now, and they lied, and they said it was about the data. It was never about the data. It was about control and about the sense that they could control things, and they can't. I mean, it's been amazing to watch as elite institution after elite institution completely destroys itself on the basis of the notion that they are able to control all of the extraneous events of life, and then reality clocks them in the face. And the people of Canada are tired of this. The polls show in September, after the last election cycle, that the vast majority of Canadians want Justin Trudeau to go. Whether we're talking about people from the left to the right, they just don't like Trudeau. And there's a reason for that. It's because you have a bunch of authoritarians over there who have decided that they are going to set standards that defy science and defy reason.
And Justin Trudeau had ample warning that this convoy was going to be coming his way because they've been planning it for a while. They've been talking about it. He could have nipped it in the bud, gone to meet with them, done something. But instead, Ben, what do you think about him basically saying that they resemble Nazis and Confederate soldiers?
You know, this sort of tactic, which Trudeau is picking up from the American left, is likely to be wildly unsuccessful. Everybody can look at this convoy and see that they are not flying Nazi flags en masse, that these are not radical right-wingers. You know, this attempt to paint everybody who is opposed to the authoritarian tactics of the authorities on COVID to Nazis and far-right crazies, it's going to backfire. It has backfired. I mean, the reason that all these places are changing policy, including Alberta, by the way, which just decided to end a bunch of its own mandates, the reason that they're doing all of this is because the people have had enough. A year too late, but they've had enough.
Ben, Stacey Abrams, another picture popped up yesterday afternoon. She went on CNN last night and apologized. There's more than one picture. All right, here's the one that popped up yesterday. Her spokesperson said Stacey trusts science and supports masking in schools as it's the current CDC recommendation. She wore a mask to the event and removed it at the podium so she could be heard by students watching remotely and for photos, but only with folks who were masked. Well, I mean, I guess that's a step better than the mayor of L.A. who said he did not breathe for a moment there.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the things that I think citizens all over the country and, frankly, across the world are just enraged with, which is this idea that the rules don't apply to the specials. And Stacey Abrams is one of these. I mean, that photo of her sitting in front of an entire classroom, 50 kids, all masked, and she's sitting there grinning wide, that's going to be on every campaign ad run by whoever the Republican nominee is in Georgia, all the way until the election day, and it should be, because it's ridiculous hypocrisy, it's absurd, and everybody knows it. It's
interesting that you'd think that she would have better political instincts than that, because she's a talented politician, and that one is just a big swing and a miss there. Wanted to also ask you about the fact that these governors are moving much faster than President Biden. I think the polling data must have been quite something to make them want to get ahead of him on this. But again, I just want to get your take on the politics of it as President Biden watches a lot of his friends and supporters decide to move on without him.
Well, I mean, I think that he is going to use the State of the Union address in a few weeks to basically declare that he has ended COVID. You saw a preview of that yesterday when Representative Hakeem Jeffries actually came out and said that the reason that COVID is now on the downswing is because of Joe Biden's policies. Of course, he can't explain why that would be because it's absolutely untrue. And you're seeing the same thing from wide swaths of the left, which have declared that the only reason they're loosening up now is because they're following the science. Let's be clear. The data have not changed one iota with regard to COVID since the onset of Omicron, and truly with regard to the vaccines, since the vaccines were widely available. This is not about the data. It is about the politics. The American people said enough, and they should remember that these politicians punished them for 2 years with bad policy because they lied to them and said they could control the virus when they could not, and then they suggested that they had a level of control over the virus even beyond the vaccines that exceeds the capacity of human beings, period.
And they said they were surprised by it, by Omicron.
And we can handle a lot, too. Ben, thank you. Nice to see you. Ben, come back, okay? And we'll have more time.
And excited about your movie that's coming out, Shut In, this weekend, free on YouTube. I know that you have a brand new venture, and congratulations on that. We look forward to it.
Thank you, Ben.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to.
And that's another thing too. Let's kind of bring that up to an actual. What do you call it? Point of conjecture, I guess you could say. Like right there, just at the tail end of that little article, they basically mentioned the production that Shapiro did with the. I'm not sure if you're aware of the Gina Carano incident that happened over at Disney, but she basically got completely shut down for a comment that she had made on Twitter, and it was the blue check marks on Twitter that had shut her down. And this is more of the same thing that we've been seeing. Like, that was to the letter the same tactic that is being used now in a lot of the cases where if the government is overreaching, they've got the media, big tech's in on it, and they're supporting these other radical left ideas and ideologies. Now, one could argue, that she deserved it. That is besides the point, in my opinion. I think we have to really, really take a granular look at how these entities, these technical giants, are allowed to basically create laws. Like, okay, let's honestly look at this. Like, I mean, laws are set in place to protect people from basically other people, okay, and what they're capable of doing. When you have what's basically a double standard with tech made by the creators of the technology, you are now sidestepping the lawmakers by creating these sub-laws and these subgroups. And guess what? They're creating subspecies. They're basically making you, if you're on the receiving end of an attack, they're basically making you the second-class citizen. And this has to be seriously looked at. This has to be seriously decided upon. And I think this should be brought to the eyes and attention of the lawmakers. Once we have a government that is actually responsible in place, then we can start looking at these other issues. But like I said, let's win in Ottawa first. Speaking of which, as far as support is concerned, we have lots of outside support from our brothers down south in the States. We have another. I just wanted to play this, just so that other Canadians know we do have a lot of support. And if you're on the fence about this whole convoy thing and you think that it's just fringe, well, guess what? There's more people, more media agency out there in other countries and the United States covering this than our own country. Our own mainstream media is only cherry picking the bad and the negative out of a situation so that they can try and quell it and lie to the people in order to get their support. Instead of saying we have a case where we need our constituents' help in determining the best possible decision, no, instead they're going to lie to them and use the same fear and same tactics, basically, to generate the response, to try and manufacture the response that they're looking for to proceed and go ahead. We cannot let them have that. And I will be touching more upon that in a minute, and it's going to go back to that first bit that I read. But for now, let's talk about the Freedom Trucker Convoy from a Michigan standpoint.
Good morning, everybody. So, the Freedom Fighter Trucker Convoy is currently in Canada. We know that they're standing up against tyranny, medical tyranny, political tyranny. They want freedom, just like everybody else. Okay, so just a little update on what I'm finding out so far. We do know that there is an increasing police presence there. So they're trying to ramp up intimidation tactics. That's normal. We'll see that a lot. However, there's gaining support. Mainstream media is not going to tell you. They're going to play it down, but it's getting bigger. They are not breaking any laws, by the way. They are under a 10-day where they can't honk their horns. They got like a what do they call it? A moratorium. So there's a moratorium for them for 10 days where they can't be honking horns. An old man got arrested here recently. Out, not even in the city. He was in like a rural area and he was just honking at another driver. Just beep beep, just police arrested this grandfather. And it was pretty pretty intense as far as just to see the optics of it. Looked pretty draconian, I would say. Well, being the fact that there's a gaining support amongst otherwise media coverage, there is a group of moms. Then I'm gonna read you a little bit about what I'm seeing here. Michigan Patriot Moms launched Give Send Me Go campaign to pay for food in support of Freedom Convoy truckers on Ambassador Bridge. Okay, so I recently sent I posted a picture. If you look through some of my stuff in the community sections, you'll see a picture of a convoy at that bridge, and I think it's that bridge. Please forgive me if I'm wrong, but there's a Bridgeport right there, and I think this was sent to me by an insider who is actually a representative for the convoy, and I have done a live stream with him on Blue Collar Talk. So if you'll go on YouTube, you'll find Blue Collar Talk. So gaining support, a group of patriotic moms in Michigan is organizing a fundraising campaign to support the truckers. I'll make it quick here. And pretty much, just like they're saying, they're against the tyranny, the masks and the jab mandates. She says, I've been following the truckers' freedom in Ottawa, and I recently heard that Canadian truckers had shut down the Ambassador Bridge and other crossings into Canada. I texted my political friends, and I told them we need to support the truckers. If not us, who? So she's working with Give, Send, Go. So please, if you're going to donate anything, Give, Send, Go. But just wanted to give you a quick update that a large group of Michigan moms are going to help support these freedom fighters, and we should all give them a lot of praise. Pray for these people. Thank them so much, because it's just a beautiful thing. Lots more to come. I appreciate all the new subscribers. Thank you so very, very much. Please check out all the videos I'm doing here, because I've got more coverage. Lots of love. Guys in control.
There you go. And that's just one account there. And I decided to subscribe to the guy. Just we need more citizen reporting. We absolutely do. Boots on the ground. Listen, part of this whole thing, part of our constitutional rights are the freedom of press. And guess what? Freedom of press does not mean that you have to have a job with a media company. Freedom of press means that you have the freedom to be the press. So don't let people beat you down and think, and just because they assume that they know what they're talking about. I mean, even police will be like, oh, where's your credentials? Where's your credentials? You know what? There's my credentials. Don't do that, but that's me. Don't do what I do. Do what I say. But I digress. I mean, we need more of it. And the more people get used to seeing it, the less likely people are going to start trying to circumvent and try to use the mainstream as their fall guy or as their tactic, because it's the same as distributed networking. If you have a centralized hub, somebody controls it. If you have a distributed network, then it has to work on agreement of all nodes within the network. And that's just how that works. And it actually keeps us a lot, not just connected, but a lot safer and in agreement. Now, another bit, I just want to play back, here's from Global News, and things are blowing up a bit. You got some scuffles happening back and forth in the parliamentary process, and let's just have a little gander at that, shall we?
Canadians are telling the Prime Minister they want to get back to work, they want to get back to normal life. That's why we're seeing demonstrations not only in Ottawa, but right across the country. The Prime Minister has caused division by overtly politicizing vaccines and the pandemic and calling these Canadians names. And now he's saying these protests really aren't his problem. They're the provinces or maybe even the cities. When will the Prime Minister stop hiding, show up for Canadians, show some leadership, and fix the mess that he's created?
The Honourable Minister. The Honourable Minister.
Thank Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I appreciate the question. I think that what we have to ask at this moment in time is what needs to get done to get Canadians safe and out of this pandemic. And what we know is the best way we can get out of this pandemic is to get vaccinated. We're all tired. We're all frustrated. But we have to ask how we can continue to sacrifice to keep those safe around us, to make sure that we follow public health measures and do our best to get out of this pandemic, keeping as many people safe and alive as possible.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, Dr. Tam and other health officials across the country have started to change their language on lifting restrictions. According to Dr. Tam, things like vaccine mandates should be re-evaluated. Countries around the world have started to lift restrictions or actually end them altogether. So can the Prime Minister tell Canadians today when the government will quickly respond to our public health officials and begin to lift all the restrictions that they've imposed on Canadians?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Well, Mr. Speaker, let's be clear that the mandates, most of which he's speaking of, are provincial in nature, that the mandates...
How about the House of Commons, well, North?
Are they in preschool?
Can we go ahead?
Yeah.
Okay. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition just asked a question. She'd like to hear what has to be said in response to her question. Please let the Honourable Government House Leader answer so she can hear it. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I heard some yelling that they want to end the mandate for truckers to be able to get vaccinated, but I would point out to the honourable members across that the rule exists in the United States, that even if it didn't exist in Canada, they would have to have it in order to enter the United States. Here are the plain and simple facts. Canadians need straight talk about how to get out of this pandemic. That means following public health guidelines. That means getting vaccinated, and yes, it means talking calmly and rationally about what are real solutions instead of trying to be incendiary and try to elevate a situation that is not about the pandemic, that is about politics.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, thanks to that member, I see the Prime Minister is still in hiding, and that member's mansplaining to me how to stay calm and rational, which I don't appreciate. Mr. Speaker, Canadians have suffered. They followed the rules. They've done what they were asked to do. We can't have a slow and drawn-out process of reopening just because the Prime Minister is hiding and in denial. Dr. Moore in Ontario said recently, I think we have to start to understand we've got to learn to live with the virus. In Canada, living means living freely. Will the Prime Minister follow the science, follow the advice of experts, and assure Canadians that he'll be removing all federal vaccine mandates quickly?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, for 2 years, Canadians have dealt with a global pandemic that has stressed all of us. There is not a Canadian who has not gone through an incredibly difficult time. The question that we ask on this side is, what is the science?
Now, the rules say that we stop at 3 o'clock. We've been very flexible going beyond that. I'm sure we don't want to cut off any questions because we can't hear anything. The Honourable Government House Leader, from the top, please.
Mr. Speaker, we need to follow science. We need to very closely look at what is the best way to get out of this pandemic using evidence, not politics. We are not in a place where we can afford to play games with public health. Instead, we have to take each step one at a time.
All right. So what I'm seeing right now is it's a game of doublespeak. They're saying that they want to trust the science, but yet the science doesn't have any data to back up the claims that they're trying to make. And then on top of that, they're trying to say that they don't want to politicize the situation. They are politicizing the situation just in their actions alone. I want people to realize that this doesn't stop with, again, like I said, platitudes and promises. This doesn't go when like the truckers will not win simply by hearing, oh yeah, we'll remove the mandates, on you go, have a nice day. No, it doesn't work like that. This is not about the vaccinations. This is about the mandates. It's about the right to have the choice. That's what this is about. And once it happens, there also has to be guarantees that it will never happen again. And this is important, because if this were to continue on in the way that the federal government wishes it does, then what will happen is they will have a case by which precedence is based later down the road. They would be able to do this again. But now they've got a case of precedence to use as, as their, I guess you could say, underlying reason for it, or the tractionable kind of, I don't know the word for it. I'm trying to find it, and it's just not hitting me right now. It'll probably hit me after I hang up this this whole show. But point is, though, is that it doesn't end there until they clearly get something underwritten into the books, stating that the things that were written in the original Constitution Act of 1982 are adhered to, and that all parties from here and this point forward respect that. And it has to be respected. If it's not the Liberal government, and believe me, I've written my letter to the Governor General already, and I will provide boilerplate copy for you if you like. I'll leave it in the description below when I'm finished this podcast. And like, I've asked for his removal. Not everybody might be into that. That's fine. This is why we have our individual human rights, because we are all individuals. We all share the commonality of individuality. And it's that which needs to be protected. And I do like this, though. This is a fun little moment in our history where the pressure was put on the people to not bring fuel to the truckers. First thing that people did, as soon as the order was given to not bring fuel, they all brought fuel. Look at this. Yeah. You gonna arrest us all? Welcome to Canada. That's how we roll. Yeah. And another thing, too, yeah. Deny the truckers fuel. That'll get them out of Ottawa. Yeah, that'll show them. Yeah, good job, Ottawa. Yeah, you really thought that one through. But in all seriousness, we've got a lot to think about. We've got a lot to think about. Just seeing if I missed anything else here. No, we got it all. Yeah, people. I will leave links for all of this stuff in the show notes after I update them when the show is complete. But I just want to end with just the idea that a lot of people here in Canada who are really only watching the one point of view that's being fed to them by the CBC, by Global, by CTV. Now there's a few media organizations that are starting to kind of come around and start to cover this better, because they know if they don't, they're going to be losing a lot of respect. Now, the CBC is a non-profit media corporation that is basically funded with your taxpayer money, and I highly recommend that we shut them down. They've grossly abused journalism. They've grossly abused it to the point of no better than propagandists, and they're in the pocket of the government currently in place. I would rather have them be a private institution and funded by, I don't know, by other drives. And I mean, this is getting to the point of absolute craziness. It hasn't reached the diabolical levels of media corruption that we see in the United States. But then again, we also don't have the population density. We also don't have as complex a social fabric as they do in the United States. It's a little bit more complex, but I will say this: win or lose, our job isn't over here when Ottawa is finished. When what happens in Ottawa finishes, regardless of the outcome, our job as human beings on this planet doesn't stop there, because we got our brothers to the south, we got our brothers and sisters across the pond. We've got a lot of work to do, because this isn't just a Canada problem. This is a Five Eyes problem. This is a worldwide problem. This is a huge problem, and this has been in the works for a very long time. I'm not going to get into any tinfoil hat theories here. Don't worry. I am simply just stating a fact that the people that are in charge of this entire campaign are really, really going to be in for a surprise, because it's not going to turn out the way that they want if we have anything to do about it. But anyway, on that note, guys, this has been the Daily Noonerino. I'm Robert J. Morris, and guys, just be nice to each other, help each other out, and stay strong. We got this. Tune back in for more, and I'll be seeing you.